Can you tell us a bit more about the performance coaching? Are there any similarities, differences with classic sports psychology?
I mean, it's the same. Like performance coaching is actually originating from sport, because in sport you also have sports psychologists and performance coaches. The difference is like in like the productivity aspect, because we work a lot on the aspects of bonding a team, staying productive, staying focused, having the right preparation, the right warm up. So like all those aspects that are also impacting the game itself, but during the game, this is us. And on the top of that, I do have a psychology background, so at the same time, I'm also, you could tell, like doing both. So everything that is outside of the game that is impacting the player's performance, it could be either conflict, it could be personal situations, it could be lack of trust, or simply not enough motivation or burnout. These are all the things that are falling into my shoulders. So I would say, as yesterday was told in the show, if the team is having energy, then that's on the performance coach, I guess.
How did you get to esports? Were you interested in Counter-Strike specifically, or in other disciplines as well?
I mean, I started in different. I started in League of Legends, and I'm like 10 years already in esports. And it was purely from my passion for gaming, because I'm a gamer myself.
Oh.
So I was following the first League of Legends Worlds and like the competitions, and we had Polish team back then competing. And I was watching with my partner, and then I was saying like, look, they don't have synergy, look, they don't trust each other, I was like, why are you telling me, tell it that to them? And then I actually texted one of the players to look at this and that, and they was like, yeah, maybe you can help us with this. And then that slowly started. Back then I was working in business, and I was also working on high dynamic teams that had a lot of pressure. So I was a senior manager in like very dynamic sales environment. So like all the theories that are connected with like burnout, keeping your productivity and all those things, they translate from one topic, from one discipline to another. So I had a right background to kind of, impact that team. It was a successful impact, and since then, basically, for so many years in esports, from one team to another with big projects, I guess I'm enjoying it. And at some point, I quit the typical business office work just to do something I love, and that's my passion, I guess.
That's interesting. The transition from League of Legends to Counter-Strike, was it easy?
I am not really diving much into the game itself. Understanding the game and understanding the critical moments in game and playing the game itself helps me a lot to understand like how the players feel. But overall, the theory behind the feelings and like what's happening, whether the players are experiencing burnout, whether they have right productivity and all this stuff, if it comes to trust and building relationship, that all stays the same. So at some point, understanding the game is just helping me to recognize the right spots that could be dangerous for the players or could be like potential threat. It could be like, for example, like when there's like a 0-3 round, for example, like what's happening with the players, like what they could be thinking, like what is happening then, like how to spin them up in the right moments, or like when they should breathe, or when they should be like, preparing themselves, or like for what rounds they could be like potentially like visualizing to peak in a specific moment. So understanding the games and all the titles I work with is helping me a lot. However, the background is important to have the sense for the person, because I feel like if you don't feel emotions and if you don't have that high emotional intelligence in my role, it will be difficult to spot the moments and to recognize when the player is really stressed, because the player can tell you, no, I'm good, but then the body language and everything that is telling you like, hey, are you really okay? So I guess it's all about like the big picture and the experience. The more you are in the job, the more you work with people, the more experience you get, I get.
Mm-hmm. And if you see this type of body language, how are you reacting, and what are you doing like to the players? Are you talking to them? Or?
It depends on the moment. Like if this is like a boot camp, if this is like outside of the competitive moment, and like my way is to work those issues out. And if these are personal issues, we quite often talk about it. If these are issues connected with strictly the team, then we do try to solve it as a team, because we need to be open about things. We need to build that trust. We need to be able to be happy for each other, not to compete inside of the team. But if these are issues like straight during the competitions, then we have those breaks where I'm going outside with the players. There's sometimes, in between the rounds, if we have that short walk and I'm planting a seed, hey, have you remembered about this one? Or I really like when you do those type of things. That is making the players smile, and that is kind of giving them that
switch.
That switch, like not to keep on thinking about mistakes, because what's happening quite often is the players are overthinking the mistakes they're making, and this is destructive. So I always want them to be set yourself for how you want to behave. Like if you ask any of the players what I taught them, we can check that out. You could ask them what have I learned them, and the first thing I've learned them, you are what you think. So at some point, that connection between how you approach yourself, what you think about yourself, about your teammates, and about your performance, that's all translating into the game.
And during these breaks, what happens, what helps you and them more, like maybe breath exercises or?
Yes, so we definitely talk a lot about breathing. I'm teaching them to support each other in game as well. So if we feel like the players drifting with thoughts or something, we do refocus them. We do, I do tell them hey, if you see this player doing this, make sure you know about this, make sure you underline this fact, you refocus them on a specific activity. So I'm building them to be a one cohesive unit in game. So outside of the game, it's just quite often a little switch that is needed. We are just starting, so at some point, I just gave them just a little bit theory, we work 3 weeks together. So that's just the beginning. But at some point, what I like about this team is they're like a sponge, There is no rejection, there's no questioning, there's no, I don't need it. But they're kind of listen, and I see that they're applying everything. So every time I see players that they're willing to support each other, that's the thing.
Do you have the time frame, maybe you or management of NAVI, where you can get these results from when you see that there's something's changing within the team?
I mean to future?
Do you have so you said that you're not working for a long time with the team.
I mean, usually I see it straight away. The moment we start the first workshops and we defined what a team is and what I want the team to do together, how we look at each other. These are the moments where the guys already see what's going on and how things should be. And then when they experience a difficult moment, they start talking about those things together. And then obviously all the stuff outside of the game about peak performance, about practicing your focus, about getting right sources of dopamine to improve your focus, and so on and so forth. These are the things that we even talked about it today. They've been given a lot of knowledge, but the key thing is to move from one game to another, from one workshop to another, but not losing everything that they learn on the way. So at some point, we were even talking with Andrei today that their peak of their abilities should be somewhere beginning of next year. So we should see what's the roof of their abilities at some point. So we'll see how things go. Obviously, there is no definition that they should be exactly the best in that specific moment, but at some point, if they pick up the pace and if there's no other obstacles on the way, then we just see them striving and working hard for the success they want, and they all hungry for. So at some point, this is a good news.
You mentioned Blade. Are you talking with them as well as a part of the job, let's say?
Of course, we plan things together. He knows them better, so I'm also asking what do you think about this? How can you support me with this? I mean, especially with the players he's been working and he's been around, he knows more or less what are the critical moments for themselves, when they're shutting down, and that is also helping me to kind of prevent things from happening, because performance coaching is a lot about prevention, and it's a lot you could compare my job into having a life jacket on the plane. You probably won't need it, but you need to know how to use it. So at some point, this is more or less the same. So he is helping me to direct me where we go, but also we do sit together. Woo! That's a good round. We do sit together. I'm also asking his opinion about things I want to improve. So when we started the boot camp, we planned together what kind of topics I should start with, what are the potential issues right now, how we facilitate Igor as well to the team. So these are the little things that we slowly push the players forward. But then every knowledge you pick up requires practice. So I cannot also dump on them so much without allowing them to practice, because at some point they will start forgetting things they've learned. So it's a kind of mix. Working together, yes, supporting each other. I like the fact he's reinforcing my messages. I'm also trying to reinforce everything he is saying. So far so good.
So teamwork.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. As you know, the matches in Counter-Strike can be quite nervous and dramatic. How do you deal with your personal emotions? How far inside in game are you?
Probably everyone can tell you that I'm in the office, I'm in the studio, because I'm like, very expressive person, and I'm super positive, so I never give up. And when there are like good rounds, I'm cheering for them. When there are negative rounds, I'm just trying to figure out like, was there something to work on this specific round for me. And watching those rounds with Ami at the same time, Ami is always telling me like, what is the mistake? So at some point he's also helping me to understand the game from some points of view, so that's helpful. But in general, I'm like very energized and positive person, so even if there is a loss, I try to underline the fact that we're just learning and we're in the process of learning, so I try not to give up at any point. I'm just looking for like, okay, what else can I do to give them better tools for the next game and for the next game. So for me, it's like more from game to game, whereas I know for them it's more like quite often some players have that type of mindset that, oh, we lost, we're not good enough. So I'm trying to teach them not to think that way. It's just like, it's a process. Process takes time. That's it.
Okay, can you tell me a bit more about your experience working with other teams and other esports teams prior to NAVI? What can you say about that? Was it a good experience for you?
I mean, so I always look into cooperations with other teams. I'm always looking to find myself and my personality in that team. So I'm trying to facilitate myself, but I'm also trying to understand the teams and the org's dynamic and like how they're managing the staff and everything. I'm always digging a little bit deeper in that. So, I mean, I cannot say any bad words about any of my past employers. Obviously, there are good and bad times at some point, but it's good to understand from both sides that there is a specific, let's say, direction. And sometimes when there are like different visions of specific, managing specifically players or where the team should go and so on and so forth, that's a natural process. And then it's okay sometimes to have a different opinion. But if I feel like the opinion is like too far away or like we have no match in that specific aspect, it's a natural process that people move on, whether the team goes a different direction, whether I go a different direction. So, I mean, all the teams I've been working with, we understood each other very well on those aspects, and whenever I felt the need to change, I was just changing, and that's fine.
You recently started working with NAVI. Do you work only with the main roster, CS roster, or are you involved in other rosters and disciplines?
I'm involved also in the Valorant roster. So I also work with the boys. The boys are now traveling to Japan. So we had a couple of workshops, but my, I guess, bigger impact on them will be when we bootcamp in January. But I'm meeting with the players, we're meeting together, I'm working quite close with the coach at the same time, so we discuss all the potential issues of what is happening inside of the team. And I'm really enjoying it because I like Valorant myself. So you're
a big fan of different games.
Yes, I am. I mean, mostly, yeah. There you go. So the thing is that I'm a gamer myself, and this is what brought me into the environment. And it would be weird not to enjoy and understand.
So it's a passion for you.
Yes, absolutely. So for me, it's like work and passion at the same time. But so if I have an option to work with the titles I like the most, maybe not like the most, but like I'm the best at Valorant from all the games. I'm so bad at CS. That's why I probably don't even try to embarrass myself too much. But I'm really taking over like Valorant, and I like this game. So at some point, working with the Valorant roster is also quite an energy for me because I'm learning. So that's the thing.
And what about Dota? What about other disciplines in NAVI?
So no, I'm not in charge of them. For now, we want to focus a lot on improving those two rosters. If we get them into the shape where we want them to be, then we'll be looking outside of it. I mean, obviously I'm just the one person, so taking over too many jobs is like not completing them at the right time. So we want to take it step by step and just think what the future holds.
Okay. When you joined the team, what was the atmosphere like there? Can you say that it's improved after?
When I joined the team, I feel like there was, like the team was not sure what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was not. There was like lack of experience what the future holds for them, and when I started working with them once Igor joined. When I just met Igor and the whole team in boot camp in Barcelona.
You didn't met
Sasha? No, I did not. So I started working from that moment, and the thing I helped them to do is to kind of understand that we are starting a new project. So new project, new opportunities, new vision. Let's make it maximum. So at some point, I don't want them to focus too much on the past experience. I want them to build a new experience, a new vision for themselves, and create their own personalities in the game right now. So to be honest, for me, it doesn't matter what was the atmosphere, because once I joined, I brought a new atmosphere and I brought a new focus, and that's for me the fact that they're keeping the focus and keeping the atmosphere. That's a win for me already.
Can we say that the organization NAVI is changing, let's say, strategy at some point with the new roster, with you on board, maybe?
I think NAVI as an org is a very smart org, and they know what's needed inside. So I don't think it's a change. Maybe it's just adjusting, or like finding for extra tools to go higher, faster, better. So at some point I feel like it's understanding what is the dynamic and what is the need right now. So I definitely agree with like how NAVI is looking at the roster, and how we're looking at finding the right talent and the right people in the right moment that is needed. So at some point, I don't know, I have nothing to add because I don't know much about the org yet. I know more about the team itself. So at some point, the only thing I can see is that we're going the right direction.
Okay. And the final question was about you mentioned that you're doing some kind of additional psychological work for them, but I think they hired a psychologist, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I mean, there is a Marina is also, so there are two of us.
So you have two people on board.
Yes, Marina is also working with the CS teams. We don't have a common language because she speaks Ukrainian. She doesn't speak English. I don't speak Ukrainian, so it's hard for us to communicate. But I was meeting her on many events when I was with N's team, and I was always admiring her work. So I feel, and like picking over this team and like learning from Valerchik, like what was she doing with the team. I've got totally the same direction, and we are like having the same type of approach to the team environment. So my only regret is that I cannot work closer with her, because I feel like we would fantastically fit together. But so far, I know she's amazing, and I'm super happy to work by her side, basically.
Okay. And the final question: How many trophies do you have with this team that before? I think the one on Dallas.
Yeah, I had Dallas, and also outside of other teams, we had a couple of finals and wins with different orgs. I feel like the most difficult one to get was the 2018 Fnatic World Finals with League of Legends. That was a pretty big and tough project for me, pretty difficult at the same time because of the players' dynamic inside of this team. But for me, person like me is rotating in many teams, so quite often I'm growing the players and then I'm leaving a team, and what stays with the players is actually what is like assessment of my work. And the fact that many of the players are just texting to me like, hey, this trophy is a little bit yours too, or like, thank you for teaching me this, or like, hey, we miss you so much in here. These are the things that are my trophies, so I look at that a little bit in a different way. But I'm definitely looking forward to hear those messages from this roster, so hopefully I will get those too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.